And that's where they make the statement. So, I've been here for sure. Don't worry. I'm Mr. Bam 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 Bam. It's not an easy road. I'm in the city, glamour and the glitter, so they think I better road. They say, who feels it knows? Ooh, Lord, every Thursday these blows. I cry, it's not an easy road. I'm in the city, glamour and the glitter, so they think I better road. They say, who feels it knows? Ooh, Lord, every Thursday. Why? From the minute of birth, you enter this world. Today, you way to overcome us. Throughout every day, they seem to get worse. Oh my God, cast away this curse. Everybody are trying to make every end meet you anywhere that them endeavor. Lord God, you see.
Yes, Leon. Sim. Now we have to run the butcher. Yeah, we're getting set, we're getting set, we're getting set. It's Annie's, so go on. Yeah, getting set, getting set, getting set. Hey, Andrea. Happy Friday to you, too. Irma, greetings. Miss Hermelin. Yeah, we're getting set. We're getting set. It's not an easy road. Oh no, it's not an easy road. I tell you, it's not an easy road. Oh no. Right, just a few more minutes and we'll get going. We'll get going. We'll get going. Some people rolling in. Hey, what's up, Glenn? Yes, Lion. Yes. Big up, brother. Big up. Yeah, man, I have the butcher thing sealed, you know. My anthem back, you know. All right, we'll get started. We'll get started. We'll get started. All right, greetings, greetings, greetings. Welcome to Wataguan. My name is Donovan Simon. I am the president of the Jamaican Canadian Association Alberta, based here in Calgary. And Wataguan is our way of connecting to the community, talking about issues that affect us as an organization, affect our community here in Calgary, Jamaica, all over the place. Still my big up. And also a way to share and connect, right? Of course, I have to start off with the apology. Last week, we ran into some serious technical difficulties. Dervan Malcolm from Power 106 in Jamaica, sitting in the lobby waiting to share some information about what's happening in Jamaica. We just couldn't make it happen, right? So serious apology. We're trying to reschedule Dervan in particular to come talk to us about what's happening from the streets in Jamaica and give us a perspective, right? But again, we couldn't make it happen, right? So life with technology. A feature on Wataguan is Patois. Patois is a Jamaican language, and A phrase that we use in Jamaica, and for the Jamaicans on the program, you need to share with us, Mr. Thomas Wagwan. Fire their mus tail and him think a cool breeze. Right? Fire their mus tail and him think a cool breeze. That is the phrase for today. Right? Now we're going to do some phrases as we go through the next couple of weeks. But for those who know what that means, fire their mus tail, you maybe just tell us what mus is. Right? So if you know what a mus is based on Jamaican patois, please put it in the comments so that other people can learn our language. There are a couple of events coming up. Even though we are so virtual these days, things are still happening. In fact, I was talking to somebody the other day who said they're now zoomed out because you Zoom everything between Zoom and GoToMeeting and Microsoft Teams and all of these things, I tell you. But people are connecting, and I think that's important. We're going to be talking about mental health literacy, especially about youth today. Chris French, big up, sir, big up, right? But a couple of things. Tomorrow is a big day for us on Zoom. We're going to be having our first episode of JamCan Viewpoint, right? This is our way of having a community conversation. And it might take, the place of our regular monthly meetings, who knows? It's going to start at 7 o'clock tomorrow. And we're going to be discussing with the presidents of a number of the Caribbean associations here in Calgary, the impact of COVID-19 on the operations, the viability, financial status of the Caribbean organizations. And we'll also be delving into this whole issue of racism, anti-Black racism, and some of the things that as community organizations we need to look at, be a part of, discuss, and ensure that we contribute to the process. So we're really encouraging people to join our Facebook feed tomorrow. We're going to have the presidents from Antigua, from Grenada, from St. Vincent, from Haiti, and of course from the Jamaican Association on the program, discussing what we think is a key issue as we present our first episode of JamCan Viewpoint. I also want to encourage you to jump on our Instagram feed from on Mondays, on Wednesdays. Daniel does a little thing called Music Mondays and Wisdom Wednesdays. Jump on, give her some vibes, give her some love, provide some positive comments. Some of the comments I see on there are not positive, but that's okay because that's part of the balance of what we do. I also want to express a big thank you for everybody on this side of Canada who contributed to the Jamaican Canadian COVID-19 response telethon. We did 2 versions of it, right? Bernie, Kenisha Wagwan. We did 2 versions of the Jamaican Canadian COVID-19 response telethon. We did a Brata version last Sunday. And we really appreciate everybody's support, everybody who donated. We raised a little over, I'm going to say under $17,000. The website is still up. And there's a committee, including myself, that is now working on disbursing these funds to international students, some of our Jamaicans who are stranded here, and other Jamaicans who are vulnerable, right? So thanks to everybody who supported, thanks to everybody who jumped on, all the artists, everybody. It was a fantastic effort. And it has also already triggered a number of initiatives that are going on that are Canada-wide, right? Hold tight, I can't tell you some of the details just yet, but a lot is now stirring up out of that particular effort. So tomorrow, 7 o'clock, right here on Facebook, JamCan Viewpoint, please make it a date, don't be late, and it should be fun. All right, let's get into the discussion that we're gonna have today. Today, we're gonna talk about youth mental health literacy, and we're also gonna dive into mental health issues post-COVID. Our guest today is Andrew Baxter. Oriana, what's up? Michelle, my friend from Ontario, thanks for joining. On the program with me today is Andrew Baxter. Andrew is a whole list of accolades, RSW, MSW, You name it. I'm going to allow him to talk about his academic prowess and his experience, and then we'll get into the discussion about mental health literacy, and we're going to focus on a number of different areas. Andrew, you're on mute. If you unmute, I think we'll hear you.
Hi, Donovan. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good, sir. How are you?
I'm good. It's Friday. I'm feeling that vibe for sure.
You feeling the
Happy it's the
Friday
weekend.
vibe?
I am.
All
I
right.
am.
Okay.
Glad we're going into the weekend here.
All right. Welcome to Wataguan. It's our way of connecting to our community and talking about some of the issues. And we're going to talk about youth mental health literacy and some of the impacts of COVID-19 on that particular demographic. But first, let's talk a little bit about you and your background as a mental health professional.
Sure. The important thing I want people to know about me is I come to this as a therapist, as helping kids. I've worked most of my career in school-based mental health. School-based works really well to deliver mental health services because that's where the kids are at. Most of the kids in Canada are in school, so we can reach a lot of them there. So my job was to help youth, to help their parents, to help their teachers work with them in a setting where we're identifying any disorder that they may have or a mental health issue that they're having or a problem, and then getting them to the help that they need and building their capacity to handle that situation.
Okay. And, you're doing it in Alberta, you're doing it in the schools. I won't get into the fact that you work with PAHO and other groups. Let's talk about the issues. What are some of the issues that may have arisen or in some cases may have gotten worse as a function of this whole COVID-19 pandemic?
Sure. I think the real direct answer there, Donovan, is that we don't know what the impacts are going to be yet. It's still too early, and this is unprecedented. We haven't seen something like this before. So we have to be really careful and go slowly and make sure that we're making decisions based on good information. We know, though, that individuals that were suffering before COVID will be the ones suffering through COVID and the ones that will have challenges in return after COVID. I think my most favorite line that I've heard around this, and I can't claim responsibility, I wish I could, is that we're all in the same storm, but we're not in the same boat. Everybody's going to be impacted by this differently. And those that had challenges with digital literacy or access to care before or a pre-existing mental illness are the ones that are going to continue to be the most vulnerable throughout this pandemic and as we return from it. So we have to think about it really separately. People are going to face very unique challenges. A lot of Canadian youth are going to take to this, no problem. It's just going to be a bump on the road. Others are going to really struggle with it. And those that were struggling before we're extra concerned about. So we have to think about those groups and how we're going to handle each one. Not all of them need all the same treatment or intervention or help.
Yeah, and before we get into the different groups, because I definitely want to go down that road, but let's possibly talk about some of the issues, the mental health issues that, some of them are pre-existing, but some of them might become new. And if also we can talk about symptoms and solutions.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of things that we're seeing and things that we're concerned about, it can be such a wide range. We're concerned about substance use. If substance use was prevalent before, we're concerned that now that the isolation is going to add to use or provide more opportunity to use. People aren't having as much structure or time in their day or the same way that they did before, so that substance use may go up. We're concerned about issues like family violence. We're really worried about domestic violence because that often occurs in closed family systems. And when youth aren't going to school anymore, we don't have as many eyes on that student. There's not as many people to ask for help. There's not as many people to tell. So by the nature of online schooling or kids that are just not going at all, we don't have the same avenues into that youth to help them. So that's a concern. But we also are concerned about youth that have learning disabilities. And now they're in a homeschooling setting and it's hard to focus. And now parent has become, in addition to teacher, and I'll tell you from direct experience, that's not always easy. My kids right now said that they're hoping for a new teacher next year. And that's me. So it's really difficult and each kid's going to respond differently. So, I wasn't trained as an educator. I'm trained as a therapist. So I don't know the best ways to reach my son or daughter in giving them the math lessons that the teacher teacher would do. That's their job and they're excellent at it. So we have to give ourselves a break, give the kids a break, and understand that teachers are adapting very quickly to a very fluid situation. So it's challenging for everybody. I think the other challenge is just the issue right now you talked about before. People are zoomed out. Well, we're fighting over bandwidth at this point and devices in the home, and the PlayStation can't get on with the iPad, or there's no computer in the house at all. So all sorts of issues that come up, even just from the technical aspects, and those all have an impact on mental health. Even more basic than that, one of the things that we're concerned about too is that because there's less schedule, kids' sleep gets shifted. Well, they can stay up late. They don't have to get up for school early in the morning.
Right.
That slide can happen. And we have to remember how critical a good night's sleep can be for good mental health. Absolutely critical.
Yeah, that's a good one, because I know that happens at my house, right? And as we look at these issues, are there different manifestations in different communities, in different cultures? Are these things that we should be aware of and acknowledge?
Yeah. That's really, you're absolutely right. There are manifestations in different cultures, and your listeners might be interested to know that today, this morning, through the World Health Agency, the Pan American World Health Organization, I was training with Jamaica. And we're running a national training with them, with the Ministry of Health and Education, to deliver a mental health literacy approach in their classrooms. And so we were talking about cultural differences today. And specifically, we were talking about grief and loss and how that's treated differently in Jamaica than in say, other parts of the world. And you're right, and nobody can ever know all the ins and outs of differences until you're a part of that culture. And so we have to make sure that we tailor our interventions to meet those cultural needs. The other part that's really important that I like to think about too is wherever you go, kids are kids and teachers are teachers. And there's enough commonality that we can find the common ground. And then leave it to the people. If we give the right information to any group, it doesn't matter what culture they belong to, and they deliver it within their own cultural group, they're going to do a really good job of it. But we want to make sure we've got the facts right in the first place.
Is there still, in your mind, or based on your experience, the need to also continue to expose mental health as an issue to be addressed and to take away the taboos from it, especially in certain cultures and communities?
Probably the biggest barrier for people to getting to help that they need is stigma. That is always our constant battle in the mental health field is to reduce that stigma, that the brain is like any other part of the body that can become sick, just like a lung gets sick or a heart becomes ill or bones break down. So can the brain in certain capacities, and we have to understand that and treat it with the same understanding and approach that we would with other parts of the body. And that is an ongoing challenge. There's the feeling that mental illness is still blamed on parenting, bad parenting, and it's still blamed on it's a moral failing of the individual or a weakness of character or a character flaw. And these are just not the case. It's far more complicated than that. And by giving people understanding, what we found is that stigma has reduced. We have two goals in our mental health literacy project, and they're very simple goals. One is teach people stuff, the knowledge, and we measure that, and then reduce their stigma. And those are the two hand in hand. And we also want them to go and get help when they need help seeking efficacy, we call that. But really, those are the key goals to a mental health literacy approach. And what we find really works is having people from that group tell their own stories about what their journey was like in seeking and getting help for their mental disorder. Mm-hmm. And we find that goes a long way in breaking down those barriers for others to access care.
Right. So let's talk about getting help. So what are some of the resources available here in Alberta? I'm not sure if you have details on what's available in Jamaica for our youth, and in some cases the adults for sure, to get some help to deal with some of these issues, especially as we, I'm not sure if we get past COVID, because I think it's always going to be here, right?
Yeah.
But as we go through this particular time.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to talk about the Jamaican resources because I'm learning them as quickly as I can. That's a new field for me because this is the first time we've run a training there. But the good news too is that we're then going to become available to other countries in the Caribbean that can join on and access the same training. But I can say here in Calgary specifically, Access Mental Health, we have that number that's out there. It's easy to find. You can type that in any Google search engine and it'll come up, Access Mental Health. And we have one for adults and one for children. That's a great place to start. It connects you with a therapist that can assess, listen to what's going on for you, and then stream you into the right service. Because that's often a challenge with our system. It is big, so it's hard to get to the right place right away. Primary care, going to see your family doctor and having a conversation with them. And you can check out our website. We have teenmentalhealth.org, and it's got a really handy dandy resource for going to talk to your physician. It's called How to Talk to Your Care Provider. And it has the questions. You know how we go into our doctor and we're always very rushed and we don't have enough time to get our ideas together. This actually gives you a list of questions to go in with so you can remember and know what to ask.
That's a good
So
one.
it really it empowers people to be able to be in charge of their own health and really have an informed conversation with their doctor. And it slows that process down a little bit. So it's a nice resource. You can find that on teenmentalhealth.org under the toolbox. We also have some COVID tip sheets out right now for how to keep that structure and that shape to your day. If it's sliding little bit with bedtimes getting later and too many Zoom meetings and things like that, we really emphasize again, and I mentioned this before, but getting back to those basics: good sleep, good eating, good exercise, activity, structure to your day is really going to go a long way to insulate you from some of the harms of the isolation and the stress that we're currently living through. And those basics can't be overlooked.
And a couple more questions, but once we get past this, and everybody uses this, I'm not sure if how good a term is this new normal thing, but having gone through this period of change for many of these young people, we're still in this uncertain time. I mean, some of them don't want to go back to school in September. I mean, some of the parents can't wait for September to come, right? To get them back out into these spaces. But what are some of the tools that parents and others in these circles need to be thinking about to help the youth readjust?
Yeah.
Because there is some readjustment that's going to be needed mentally, right?
Yeah. And it really is going to be knowing that youth. So if I have any one suggestion, it's invest in that relationship with that youth, because some kids, again, it's going to be like water off a duck's back. They're going to be right back into the school, seeing their friends, happy, re-engaged, no problem. Other kids, there's going to be a bit of worry built up over not going. And knowing which way your child or your youth is going to respond in that situation is going to be key. So I would say have conversations with them ahead of time, pre-plan what that's going to be like. What do you think? And right now, one of the big challenges is there's so much up in the air in terms of how we're going back, when we're going back, if we're going back, and what format.
Right.
And I think the more you can share the information at a developmentally appropriate level for your son or daughter or child, it's going to be really helpful to give them as much foresight as you can, like start planning it. Tell them what you know, tell them what you don't know, and be honest in that. And then be proactive in terms of how do you feel? What can we do to minimize those feelings or maximize and capitalize on those feelings if they're positive or negative, depending.
Right.
And remember, we don't want to define good mental health as only feeling good. That's not good mental health. Good mental health has a wide range of emotions: happiness, sadness, days you feel like you can't be bothered, days you're elated, humor, everything, the whole range of emotions. That's good mental health. So a few bad days or a few worries about going back to school, that's normal. And you can tell that youth, you're right on track. That's 100% normal. You're going the right direction. So good mental health shouldn't be defined as the absence of negative mood states.
Yeah, it's not euphoria.
That's right. No, not at all. That's impossible. And you're going to be really disappointed if you're aiming for 100% euphoria all the time.
All right. One last question. What role can or should organizations like ours, ethnocultural community organizations, play in this process of mental health literacy, whether it's for youth or adults, but generally, what role do you think we should be playing?
Well, I think you're doing it right now. I think this is such an important topic to get out to your community. And if we can connect through organizations like your own, or through community, or through sports, or through school, this is where that community sits and where it's at. So go to the people where they are. And I think you're doing that right now through digital media. I think it's a wonderful forum to have these conversations. I think it goes a long way to break down the stigma. And I think too, what we want to do is make sure we take in a little bit of mental health literacy, and we have a shared common understanding. And the program that I work with, we're training the City of Calgary Recreation Department, and we're training the schools, and we're training the police services, and we're training, we're involved in a whole bunch of different agencies and trying to get a common language and common understanding of what mental health is and what mental illness is, how to know you need help, and how to know where to go when you need it.
Right.
So being a part of building that structure is key for organizations such as yourself. You're reaching into communities that we wouldn't always get to, or we wouldn't see immediately. So that is fantastic.
Okay, awesome. Andrew, we could talk a lot more, but time is upon us. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your insight. Thank you for joining the program.
Thank you for having me. I really had fun. Thanks a lot.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
All
Bye-bye.
right, folks. Lots of insight there as it relates to mental health literacy, how we address our youth. Maybe some of the key things to take away is that we need to have conversations. We need to look at structure. We need to look at how we're going to help our youngsters as they adjust and go through this whole COVID-19 thing. We're going to have to wrap up the program. We're coming down to the end. The Patois phrase for the day is "Friday a musmus tail and them think a cool breeze." If you know what a musmus is, I see a couple of people. Vance, greetings. Was been a big up. If I didn't big up, because sometimes people say to me, "Oh boy, I'm gonna say hello." I didn't say hello because I didn't see you pop onto the program. Thanks for joining the program. Next week and the next couple of weeks, I tell you, we have some wicked sessions that are coming up. Next week, we're going to have Lance Milton on the program, and he's going to be talking about youth empowerment. Jamaican youngster here, well, youngster relatively speaking, here in Calgary. And he's going to talk about his own experience and some of the things that he's doing now to empower our youth. On the 3rd of July, we're going to have a discussion on anti-Black racism in the church. Yeah, we're going to touch a church. I'm going to have Bishop Ransford Jones and Reverend Marlene Henry joining us to discuss anti-Black racism in the church. And then the following week, we're going to continue the discussion about a community issue relating to identity and belonging. Haggadah Sale is going to join us and discuss some of the things that are happening and how it impacts families. How, for example, a Black youth growing up here in Calgary has to adjust and deal with the issues within his family as it relates to identity and belonging. So next week, like I said, Lance Milton. The week after, we're going to have Bishop Jones and Reverend Henry. And the week following, we're going to have Haggadah Sale. And like I said, when we started, my apologies again for not getting Dervan Malcolm on last week. We're still trying to get him rescheduled to come and give us some perspectives from Jamaica. For the people in Calgary, join us tomorrow. Well, anybody can join, really. We're going to be on Facebook, so it's open to everybody. Jump on and join the conversation. The weather this weekend should be fantastic, so get out there and walk around. There is still need to practice some COVID-19 protocols. Wash your hand, wear your mask, but don't ask people to read your lips while wearing your mask. That is the thing I notice a lot of people doing these days. Until next time, take care. What else am I have to say? Like our page. If you haven't liked our Facebook page, just like the page. Check out our Instagram page. Jump on our website. And of course, we ask you to share this program with others, right? As always, it's a pleasure doing it. Thanks for joining the program. And I will see you again next week. I still don't see any comments in the thing about Friday a musmus tail and think a cold breeze. So people, help those who don't know, no? Right? Joe? All right, until next time, take care. Out.
And that's where they make the change. So, I'll be there for sure. Don't worry. I'll miss you. Bam, 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 bam. It's not an easy road.